I'm sure we'll talk about him, in the off season or
Oh yeah.
whenever,
So
whenever
he'll
it
do
may
something soon. He's just sitting in the like the weeds, waiting to pounce on
Ha
something.
ha, weeds.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there
Pun
a pun
intended.
intended? Okay.
Pun intended. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Donut Bag, part of the Pulse Podcast Network and the Pod Hub Network. In this episode, I talk with Florence Carmela from radio stations WEBE 108 and WICC 600 in Connecticut about growing up in an Italian family. Then I talk Pittsburgh sports with Rudy Reyes of CBS 5 in Cheyenne and the Roo Dog Show. Then I preview Week 11 in the NFL with regulars Mark Hagelauer and Coach Warzoo. Since tomorrow is Thanksgiving, if you're listening to this around Thanksgiving, I hope everybody has a nice, safe, and wonderful Thanksgiving. The Donut Bag starts right now. My next guest is Florence Carmela. She does promotions for radio stations in Connecticut, WEBE 108 and WICC 600. She has her own website, florencecarmela.com, and I don't know what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. Florence, how you doing?
Good, Joe. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
I am doing great. So when we're recording this, it's the night before Thanksgiving. Do you have any big Thanksgiving plans?
Actually, I'm going to go to my brother's house. My brother and my sister-in-law always host Thanksgiving. They do a huge Thanksgiving feast. We do the Italian thing and we do the traditional American thing as well, but we basically eat all day is what we do.
What's the Italian thing for Thanksgiving?
We always start with lasagna, meatballs, and sausage in the sauce.
That's why I wanted to have you on, because we have very similar, we both have Italian backgrounds. That's exactly what my mom does. She makes either lasagna or like baked ziti or something like that. It's like, yeah. It's like no matter what American thing is going on, you have to put an Italian twist on it.
Oh, absolutely. If it's not lasagna, it's manigot, and it's always with meatballs and sausage, always with the sauce, always. And then we go and have the American traditional feast, which is, the turkey, the mashed potatoes, the sausage stuffing, all the vegetables, the salad, the dinner rolls, the cornbread. We do it all. So
you're just eating nonstop.
It'll be football and eating nonstop.
That's why Thanksgiving is the best holiday. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah, you don't have to worry about getting gifts. You just have to show up.
Yeah, and I baked tonight. I baked a dessert, so I'll be bringing that. But my sister-in-law is so funny because she really loves doing it herself. And my brother's a big help because he cooks, like my dad, who's no longer with us. My dad was a great cook. My mom's a great cook, both being from Italy. And my sister-in-law, though, we always offer to go over early, to help, to make more food, to do this, do that. And it's her thing. She wants to do it, but she'll always say, you can bring a dessert, bake a dessert. But me and my mom always offer to go help her because, there's a lot of us. We're like a big family. I have a lot of nieces and nephews. And she always wants to do it herself, but she does an amazing job. Her and my brother, they've been together over 30 years. They got married very young. They met as teenagers, and they're still together and, raised a bunch of kids. But, yeah, Thanksgiving tomorrow's going to be really special. I love Thanksgiving. It really is my favorite holiday.
That's another trait. Got to do everything themselves. Can't take help. No.
You
got to do it all themselves.
Exactly. And I understand that because I enjoy cooking and baking myself. As an Italian girl, I did all that growing up. I learned from my parents, and I still love to do, especially the traditional things. Like on Christmas, Christmas Eve in Italy was the big celebration, the big tradition, more than Christmas Day. So Christmas Eve, we do all the seafood, the 7 fishes. We open our gifts.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. We open our gifts at night, actually,
Yeah.
because in Italy, that's how my parents did it. And my father always wanted to keep that tradition. We'd stay up to 2, 3 in the morning opening presents, That's just how we did things. But yeah, I mean, that's special as well. I mean, I do love Christmas Eve. I would say next to Thanksgiving, it's my favorite holiday because it's so traditional for us being Italian, the way my parents do it. And then on Christmas Day, we would just eat all over again.
There you go. Yeah, it's basically Thanksgiving part 2.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's exactly. I imagine yours is very similar. It sounds like you're understanding everything I'm talking about.
Now,
see, if someone's not Italian, they don't get it. They don't get it.
It's just so funny that most people that have parents like Italian parents that came from Italy, it's just like such similar experiences. It's like I don't know if there's like a manual or something they give them when they get on the boat or something like that. I don't know.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Anyone that I grew up with who, like you said, had a similar situation, parents from Italy or even just another country, we always had very, very similar stories, very, common ways about us. Because even being raised by those people, I don't mean to say it in a derogative way, those people, but being raised by people from another country, it's a whole different experience than your friends who were American, second, third, fourth generation American. Being first generation American, it's very different.
It is.
Very different.
It's a different mindset. So where were your parents from in Italy?
My mother was born and raised in Palermo, Sicily, and she came over at 16. And my father was raised in a little town called Benevento, right outside Naples City. So right outside Naples. And he came over at 19.
Wait, they came up. Did they meet in Italy or did they?
No, my mom was here. My mom was here on vacation. My mom was a teenager, and she was here on vacation from school with my grandma and my grandpa and all the little brothers and sisters because she's the oldest, and there was like 12 kids. And, they were here on vacation. What my mother thought was a vacation, let's put it that way. She didn't realize that my grandfather was actually looking for a house here. And they didn't tell her. They didn't tell her that. And my dad basically came over looking for work so he could make money to bring his brothers and sisters over because my grandmother, who I was named after, her name's Florence. Actually, both my grandmothers, Florence and Carmela, are both my grandmas. Florence, my dad's mom, unfortunately passed away after giving birth to their last child.
Oh, wow.
Through childbirth. She got sick and then passed away months later. And my dad, who was the oldest at the time, he was 12, he was left to take care of the children and take care of everyone because my grandfather was in the Army. He was in the war, actually. Mm-hmm. So my dad, at 12 years old, quit school and raised my aunts and uncles. Wow. And when he turned 19, he said it was either Canada or America. He had to go somewhere where he could have a better life, make money, have some type of stable income so he can one by one bring his brothers and sisters over from Italy, which is what he did. He would send money home so they could come be with him. And then once he got everybody here, then they decided to stay here. But as far as meeting my mom, he basically just met her through another family that was here. And they basically took pity on my dad because he was here alone. He was a teenage boy, no parents, no way of making money, and basically took him in. And one day he actually met my mother that way. It was just by chance. And she thought it was just a vacation and she was going home in a couple of weeks. And no, they had to break the news to her that wasn't the case. And she wasn't happy because she loved being in Sicily. She had a really good life. See, very different from my dad. My dad, There was no money. There was poverty. After the war, there was nothing, nothing for them. And they struggled to even have food, to even eat. Where my mother came from a totally different situation where she used to go to the opera and have fancy clothes and had a really nice life, had a really nice upbringing, had both her parents still, alive and healthy. and just, a different situation, but they met, and my dad saw her, and that was it. He was head over heels, like they say, you get hit with the thunderbolt.
The thunderbolt, I was just going to say that.
Yeah, when you see a woman that enchants you that much to the point where you're almost dizzy, like you feel like you're going to fall over, they say you were hit by the thunderbolt, and that's what happened with him. Yeah, that's what happened with him. Even though he had I shouldn't say this, he had a girlfriend in Italy. Look, when he was alive, he used to tell the story all the time. But he did have a girl that he grew up with. They were teenagers, and they would live next door. They were neighbors, and he was supposed to be with her. It was sort of like an arrangement between the families. But when he came here looking for work and looking for money, not that went out the window, but it was sort of put on hold. At least that was the idea. And then he saw my mom, and that was it for him. And he never went back.
Oh boy! So how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have all brothers. I'm the only girl. I have 3 brothers, 3 boys.
Are you the oldest?
I'm in the middle. I'm the third.
Oh,
I have 2 older brothers and a younger brother.
You're the princess.
Oh my God, yeah. I was definitely my dad's princess. I was such a daddy's girl. That's why when he passed away, it was so hard because he was just such a good dad. I mean, I had such a great father. I mean, he was a wonderful husband. He treated my mom extremely well. And he was just a great dad. I mean, he kind of made up for what he didn't have in life when he was younger growing up and losing both of his parents at a young age and having to be the man of the house at a very young age and raise brothers and sisters. He was just a natural parent. He was a natural dad. He was very maternal for a man. I mean, and he was great.
Imagine coming to a whole other country to start a life. I'll bet he didn't even know English.
Oh, no, neither one of them did. Absolutely not. And my dad didn't even have an Italian education, let alone an American education, because he had to stop school in, I think it was 5th or 6th grade. Right. Yeah. And different world back then.
Totally different world. There's such, against such odds, and they make it, and it's just, it's what the American dream is all about. And your story kind of reminds me of that too. The way you got into radio. Talk a little bit about that. How you, because you didn't exactly train for radio or at least go to school for it, right?
No, not at all. My dad, again, being hardcore Italian, basically said when it was time for me to go to college, here are your choices, basically. Be a nurse, be a secretary, or be a teacher, because those are very safe. My dad was all about, having security and having that safety and never having to worry about money, never having to worry about yourself, never, always being taken care of. And he felt that having, either a teaching degree or a nursing degree or a secretarial, degree, like having those things, that equals security. It equals a promise of a good future. And his feeling was, especially for his little girl, for his teenage daughter, those were good things for a woman, good things for a girl, for a lady. Those were good jobs, and they were solid, and he would never have to worry. Because that was always his thing. Like, I don't ever want to have to worry about you. Like, I always want to know that you're going to be fine and you can take care of yourself. And those were the choices. So I always loved kids, and I had spent a lot of time at that point working at a preschool, which ironically enough, I ended up doing again later in life. But, and I loved it. I loved it. And I went to school for early childhood education. And long story short, I got a degree in that and continued on in education, doing special education, preschool, elementary school, you name it, I've kind of done it. But then about a year ago, I just decided, you know what, even though I love my job working with kids, I was very burnt out. Special education, and any teacher who's in special education will tell you, you become burnt out very quickly. And I had sort of felt for the last couple of years that I felt that way. But it also had a lot to do with the fact that I had this sort of unrealized dream, I guess you can say. It was just this thing in me that I always wanted to do radio. And people were always